I'm just so much on the practical level. My work is all about actually interacting with people, and especially people who have little education, who are using art as a very basic form of communication because they don't necessarily have even written language. So I just feel that some of the beauty of that is by not categorizing it and making it so scientific that it's more immediate and spontaneous and direct and changing. And I don't know, I don't know if it makes sense, but I know it's important to record what I'm doing and try. I wish I could actually do that, and I would love to do it, but I just haven't been good at it. Maybe that's why I'm just jealous of you guys having to think about what you're doing and measuring it. I think all of us have a sense within ourselves that we're not good enough, that we don't that something is wrong, that we have to achieve something to become something. So in a way, the ultimate dream is that we don't really need to achieve anything or do anything to have self-love. That's a very difficult challenge, and it requires a lot of, normally it doesn't happen in this lifetime. But second best is when people are able to identify that thing in their life they are supposed to be doing, because most of us do something because our parents told us something, or expectations, or teachers, or siblings, or just the community. So the biggest thing is to try to find, in a playful way, how to get the most out of life. That means how to live your dream, or get as close as possible to your dream. What would you love to do, and why? And defining that is what it's all about. Trying to define, get closer to a definition of where you really have your skills, when you're in flow. What's your strength, really, your personal strength, and when you're in flow. Those are good indicators of a place you should try to aim for. There are similarities, and the similarities is that you just enjoy the activity so much that you forget about time and place sometimes, and you feel energized. But there are differences as well, because like the flow experience I get from being in nature can be different from the one I get from doing my art. And then again, the flow I get from doing the workshops when I'm just talking. So there are differences in that. Like the flow experience I get from my affirmative art is like now when I'm talking to you, when I'm energized, talking. Then I get a different flow experience from being in nature, which is much more calm. I'm not like this in nature, I'm much more calm. But that's the difference. Grappling with that today. Like my relationship to my siblings and parents, of course, it's like all of us, not easy, because they have expectations, and their values and their lifestyle is so different. Being an artist, I'm like an outcast in their eyes, because I come from a very conservative business type of family. But then, then you turn it, and that takes me out of flow sometimes when I think about that. But then you turn it and you realize that gift of not fitting in is what created affirmative art, because without feeling that I was out of alignment with my true heart, I wouldn't have started affirmative art. I could have just had more conducive parents and siblings, and then I would just be like maybe a businessman, or do whatever people in that community where I grew up were doing. You understand what I mean? So I think that's a powerful thing for me, that just linking those challenges to the gratitude for the challenges that made, like in this case, affirmative art open up for me. So that's type of experiences which have been a bit hard. And I have another one, the the whole birth of affirmative art was based on losing access to my daughter Imani. The mother didn't allow me access, so I felt devastated about that. And I drew my first, like in 2011, I think it was, first affirmative art where I drew a painting where I not even a painting, it was just writing, like, and some abstract painting where I said I would be with Imani if it was right for Imani. It was like, it wasn't forcing it, but it was like an open. If that would be better for Imani, I would stay with Imani, and actually she would even come to Norway. That was the first affirmative art. So that challenge of losing access to my child and feeling my child was our child, I should say, because it's not only mine, of course, but feeling that the child. So this is the alarm clock. This is when I thought I was going to talk to you. I just saying that those hardships, like losing access to my daughter and not feeling understood in my local community, has been the birth of affirmative art. If you understand that, without that, those hardships, I wouldn't have created affirmative art and been able to work and enjoy and work with many people on affirmative art. So that's been a great gift. Blessed. And I feel to a large extent I'm living my dream, because my dream has been being with my daughter, having a family, and doing art and affirmative art and helping others, helping others reflect on their lives and achieving or working towards their dream and possibly achieving their dreams. That is my dream. So I'm living my dream to a very large extent, and that's why I want to share the tool, because it works so well for me. So I feel others should benefit, especially those in Africa and other cultures that don't have all the privileges that we have. Because when I talked also in the workshops in Norway or in the US, I was told afterwards what I said was very politically incorrect. But it didn't matter so much, because the way I said it was more important. And I think that's a big lesson for me. We can be completely free with what we say, and even say things that are controversial, terrible, as long as we say it with sort of a light heart and a positive attitude and an openness. So that's been a lesson for me, that diversity. I have my own prejudices, of course, but I'm just being free with people makes it much easier. And of course, I feel that with affirmative, you see the similarities with people, because you're talking about dreams, and they are slightly different, but the concept is somehow similar in different parts of the world. We did it in Iran, for example, and I was surprised how people were open-minded and actually, critical. And so a lot of these ideas you have about other cultures, your expectations don't really match up. And in Africa too, many of them have very advanced and sophisticated dreams they can present properly. So you never know really what you're going to get. And these things are more similar than what you expect. I think, funnily enough, being in Norway, it's like one of the places in the world people are least receptive to affirmative art, I feel, because people have so many opportunities, and also they sort of not being spoiled, but people are a bit less open to new ideas. I feel that's interesting to see how, when I move in Africa or many other countries, even the US, people are more open-minded about the concept here. So maybe that's a bit disappointing that here in Norway, I'm not getting as much traction as maybe I would hope for. But it's okay. I get to do, I balance between affirmative art and my own art, and I love doing my own art as well. So is probably the perfect balance. So here I can do more of my own art, which is also wonderful. Yeah, in a way, my art is like a living experiment in affirmative art. So I'm trying to play with techniques. It's a record, because I believe in record keeping, like to remember where we are, where we're going. So it's a record, but it's also it's also an experiment. Like today, for the first time, I did a new experiment where I said something to my father. It was like, actually, I have it here. Because when you called, I was trying to mail it off to him, and I didn't. And then I just went out to the mail office and came home to talk to you, which is wonderful. Anyhow, I got this photo of him when he was a kid, and it says, "Kjære far, takk for oppveksten og mulighetene du lærte meg, muligheter du lærte meg å klare, du lærte meg å klare meg og stole på universet, fra din sønn Eirik Jarl." So it means, dear father, thank you for a great upbringing and possibilities. You taught me to manage myself, to survive, and have faith in the universe. But then the trick is, because this was a good way to present something more challenging, because I give him this as based on a photo, but then it's him as a child, by the way, which is a photo, and then I painted around it. I don't know if you can see that, but it's. So then on the back, I said, when I've said that, you're also a selfish man that have left a lot of women, heartbroken women in East and West, that are still bitter about the divorce that happened 30 years ago, that used me to criticize my own mother, and that were concerned with your own needs after the divorce, not the feelings of a 14-year-old son. But that's life. We try as good as we can with the starting point we have. Your starting point were parents who loved you and made your ego very big. Now, as you go towards the end of your life, my wish is that you can forgive yourself and the people around you, that you can get rid of the ego and find a new beautiful world full of love and peace. Anyhow, but it's very personal. But what I'm trying to say with this experiment is, you give something as a tribute to somebody, and then you have the other side, which is sort of a harsh thing, but also it's easier to give something like this when you need to say something. But it's funny how you have the flip side of somebody. It's like you have the front side, which you want to give to him, and then you have the flip side of him. We all have two sides. And I just want to, so this is like an example. Maybe if this works well, I'll try it with some other people as well, the family and friends. And maybe people can use this in affirmative to communicate difficult things to family members, for example. So in that way, I use art as an experiment. This just took me 1 hour or half an hour or something, but it can be a powerful thing still. I work very fast. So I do this and I see what happens and I make a couple other ones. For me, my father always he was a single child, and he always felt he was the center of attention, and he felt really proud of himself. So that's wonderful for having a career and a lot of money and that, but it's not so good for spiritual growth and development. And if you can let it go, the more you can let it go, the better it is. And if you, towards the end of their life, we have a great opportunity to reduce, to actually let it go, because we don't have to prove anything anymore. So, the ego is very strong when we are in our 30s. We can prove our careers and get an income and drive a nice car and whatever. But at the age of 80, you have the opportunity to let go and just be. And that's getting rid of the ego, the way I define it. But I don't know if that's the official way to define it. But anyhow, but it has something to do with pride, that you feel I'm so special, and I'm unique, and what I do is so special, and don't hurt my feelings and all that stuff. So I think I would appreciate to be acknowledged for going for art, being brave enough to break with the family traditions. That I'd like to be on the front. On the back, I think maybe it challenged me on escaping. Maybe sometimes I escape, I run away from things. Partly the reason I'm in Africa is because, it was easier to go there than to be challenged, confront myself in a way and go through the darkness. So I went through Africa instead. That's one. And the other one is self-worth. I mean, a challenge for me, to some extent, not having enough having self-worth, and the ego about thinking about not maybe having enough self-worth, or what is it anyhow? So I have a lot of ego, and I think also I could be challenged on the way I treat other people, sometimes superficially and selfishly as well. I have a lot of my father in me, by the way. There's a lot of selfishness and high ego in me as well. So when I'm writing this to him, I'm sort of writing it to myself as well. I found more of living in the now. I found appreciation of small things. I found these people I sort of just more in the moment. So you don't have all these Zooms or meetings. You just go with the flow. That presence, and there's a lot of care. People really have a lot of love. But of course, I also found deceit and disappointments and the expectations of being a white man and dishing out money to everybody, and feeling of being taken for a ride, exploited. So I found both great love and also great disappointments. It means, I did actually have 3 exhibitions about that. A white man in East Africa called a Muzungu. So I did a Muzungu in Uganda, and one in Copenhagen, and one here in Norway, in Oslo, outside Oslo. So that was really nice to see the difference, the reaction, have a chat. In Africa, they found it very strange that I talked about being a Muzungu. I don't know why, but it was a way to digest all those years there. I know it was almost 15 years, 12, 13 years. So the exhibition was in a way trying to digest all those impressions, the good and the bad. There was confusion. One of the main posters, I don't know if I have it here, but it was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of, confusion of wanting to do something good and then it not being received like that. This was in January. I was in Uganda, and it was an opportunity to reflect. And I did many, many paintings. And the topic, because I had an art teacher who told me, that art should be about feeling and technique. It should be both. And I haven't been touching on the feeling so much in my art. I mean, not consciously. So here is maybe my 2 siblings or parents, and then having myself in the middle. And it's like they're pointing at me, and I'm feeling small. And it's that feeling being judged, So I did many different sketches. So that was a new thing for me to combine the feeling and the technique in that particular way. It was very good. because of course with affirmative, it's working on the surfaces, while this one went a bit deeper, I felt. But it needs time, you know, because you get so many distractions in everyday life and these workshops and this and that. So, and of course, it's not so pleasant because you're dealing with the dark side, the feeling of being judged or humiliated. So you're revisiting some of those feelings. So my art is, I do maybe 50-60% in these books. And as I said, I think we all should have books like this, because you reflect over yourself, and you have conversations, and you have this record. Tumaini is hope. I've been thinking a lot about that. Tumaini. But it's also appreciation. You know, I use like an appreciation journal as well, because as you go through it, it's easy to record all the things you appreciate. And that gives you encouragement. And sometimes it's funny, one of the most important things to me with these books is that sometimes my recollection of the past is completely off. I think most of us have a very difficult recollection of our past, but this is more true than my mind. So I go back. These books I started in 2000 and I mean, not this one, but the idea of doing this book started in 2003. So I go back like 20 years and I see what I'm thinking or my perception was completely different from what it actually has been at that time. My current perception of the past was off. So this is more of a record of truth. And then I look at this like, your dream future is in your hand and head, whatever. So I try to combine words maybe that I can use in the slogans. Get out of your box with affirmative art. I did a box. So. Anyhow, it's just then I can play around with logos. I cut in this box. So yeah, I do enjoy them too. I think it's also good for sanity, you know, when it's boring conversations, then you just bring out your book, you know. It's a good distraction. Sometimes in weddings and stuff, I use my book. It's a good way of trying to be useful in a boring situation. I see more, having lived in Africa, I see more justice. Most people think the world is so unjust. I must admit, I see a lot of justice, more justice. I see there's a correlation between how I behave and how my life turns out. I see that from personal experience, some of these places in Africa, which are really in bad shape, people are taking bad choices as well. And they have options. So we all have options. We keep on choosing and we go down the wrong path. And then we have a choice to acknowledge it's the wrong path and we can correct it. Or we have a choice of continuing on the wrong path and going further down it. So for me, I feel our life is a great opportunity to learn and help others learn, in my case, that they are the masters of their own life. I mean, there's a guy called James Allen that I think has some nice words about that. As a man thinketh. So a lot of what our life is, the manifestations of our thoughts and our beliefs. And if we can keep those in a good shape, life will be fantastic. And the way to keep them in good shape is to stay alone at times, to work with things you love, to be with good people, and to avoid news, for example, and drama and stuff like that. News, I think, is one of the things that takes you away from the current moment. All those things that are trying to distract us, even social media, it's a terrible thing in terms of not being able to get in the flow and not being able to see the true reality, because you just get drawn into drama. Because the reality is so beautiful, and then you get drawn into drama by watching news or being on social media, and you forget it. And the best place, of course, to do it is in nature. To be to be in nature, you get closer to the truth. Just because you slow down and you sense your surroundings and stuff like that brings us closer to the realities. For me, at least, that's how it works. In the affirmative, we have, and I think that's an important point, we have in the triangle of the future, we have your personal dream. That could be of having a family or children or whatever. And then we have world impact, we call it. And the idea of that is to start, maybe it's tweaking a bit or pushing, but it's trying to make people realize the importance of thinking beyond yourself, and to a large extent because of the nature of the environment. I think that's one of the reasons. I think that's such an important point, that people start reflecting early what you can contribute with, and many people do talk of environment when it comes to that world impact. So I think it's a great opportunity for a cause that we can not get all depressed about, but see as an opportunity for radical change and opening up our minds. And I also think that we all have each. This is maybe the ultimate climate change, but we felt when I was growing up, I was physically scared of nuclear war, and sometimes I would lie in my bed and think that now it's going to happen. Now there's going to be a bomb exploding anytime, because there was so much emphasis on nuclear war and the great risk of nuclear war. We were neighboring Russia, and we were scared of those Russians. So what I'm trying to say is, it seems like in all periods of our history, there has been one thing or another that we felt was so devastating it could destroy the earth. And we really felt that about nuclear war as well. I'm not saying, of course, climate change is real, but it's what is now the big thing on our earth, or in our countries, or on the planet, as a challenge, as a threat and a challenge.